Push this button and you'll just tell us to stand and lead us in the pledge.
And everybody will join in.
If I could get council members to join me, it is now 7 o'clock. I have two. I need two more to begin.
There's Councilmember McConaughey. There's strike three. Strike three. Yes, we're going for 4 strikes so we can get a quorum.
I need one more council member so that we can begin. Anyone? Councilmember Bloom, Councilmember Worthen, Councilmember Pack. Yay, here comes Councilmember Worthen. Thank you.
Yeah, but you gave us the quorum.
I need a quorum is all to start. Good evening. I'd like to call this session of the West Jordan City Council to order. We have Councilmember Worthen, Councilmember Green, Councilmember Whitelock, and Councilmember McConaughey. I'm sure that Councilmember Bloom and Pack will be joining us soon. But we will go ahead and begin because your time is valuable. If you are joining us via Zoom, you will have time to speak later, and you will be called on by raising your hand, and I will call upon you when it's your turn. Or if you're joining via phone, please push *9 and wait to be called on. We'd like to begin this evening. We have Mr. Roy Williams, who has graciously consented to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So please join in when he asks.
Everybody would please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. In our meetings, we strive to have a respectful and orderly meeting and have it be effective for everyone. So we ask that when we give public comment that we are kind and that we give good information to help us make better decisions on your behalf, because we are a republic and we are up here representing you. So we do want to hear from you. We appreciate you being here. We welcome you. And again, if you're online, if you will just raise your hand in the chat, or if you will push *9 if you are joining us via telephone, and I will call on you. If you are here, please just come up to the lectern. You push the button on the right, and then the red light will go on, like on my mic. And if you will state your name and your city of residence, and then we will give you 3 minutes to speak. Is there anyone that wishes to address the council this evening?
Hello, I'm Anne Marie, the manager of the Bingham Creek Library. I just wanted to give you a little peek at how successful the Star Party was back in September. First of all, huge thank you to the city of West Jordan for helping promote that for us. We had over 400 people show up. It was super successful, tons of fun. It was amazing. Thank you for your help promoting that. We also have some really fun things coming up in the month of November. We've got National Novel Writing Month, also fondly known as NaNoWriMo, where writers can come join together on Wednesday nights, with the exception of the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. We close early that night, but you can come in the 2nd, 9th, 16th, or 30th of November and write with other writers, talk with other writers. It doesn't have to be a professional. At 6 o'clock at night, we have rooms and spaces set aside with some little treats and stuff too. So really exciting, super fun. All ages are welcome for that. And also, we have started doing our Level Up program again, which is a wonderful program directed towards our third grade customers who come in. They can do 3 small library challenges that help them learn how to navigate the library for themselves, feel empowered in using the library, and they get a fun little prize once they complete their 3rd challenge. So if you know somebody, would love to have them come join us at the library, either for writing, for the Level Up, or anything else. We love having our community with us. Thank you so much. We're so happy to be part of the city of West Jordan.
Thank you.
Real quick question. What are the ages that that's targeting?
The Level Up,
Yeah.
that is aimed specifically at our 3rd graders because they're at about that level where they're starting to learn these things. It's actually part of school curriculum, and so we're kind of helping reinforce school curriculum as well for that.
Cool.
So, but we do allow smaller siblings to come join, and they get a small sticker for helping. So,
We got a 2nd grader and a 1st grader, so we may swing by anyway.
oh, excellent! Yes, we'd love to see them. So, yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Next, we'll go to, we have a caller on phone. If your hand is raised, if you would like to speak, please push *6 and then you'll be given 3 minutes. I believe it is Miss Efremo. You need to unmute by pushing *6.
Hello.
Go ahead.
This is Alexandra. I just want to say I live alone, and I have to tell you, my kitty is my best friend. I went to get her at the shelter, so I want you to know cats and dogs are so special. But I want to say I I've said this before, but Officer Overmore, my, Maya, he should have protected her. When he left his home, he did put his vest on him, but why did he not put the vest on Maya? And I'm sorry, folks. Maya is my precious, precious little dog. And I'm sorry. I think Officer Overman should be fired. He should never do anything with any canines. My Maya, I pray for her every day. Anyway, I'm so sorry. Officer Maya should have protected her by putting a vest on her before he left home. I'm sorry. Please, I pray Officer Maya is fired from the Department of West Jordan Police. Anyway, my heart goes out to Maya. I pray for her every day. Anyway, thank you for taking my call. Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, is there anyone else in the chambers that wishes to address the council? Now is the time to come to the podium. Oh yeah, if you're here for our public hearing, which is a budget amendment, you'll have time then.
Hi, my name is Paula Colvin. I'm a resident of West Jordan, and I'm here today to raise a traffic congestion issue on 7800 South from 5600 West to Bacchus Highway. There's a single lane traveling, going east and west, and there's a lot of new housing and new businesses going in, and it's becoming worse all the time. So I have called the city planning office, have not heard back, but I did leave a message.
Thank you. Anyone else? And I failed to mention that during this time we don't have dialogue with you. but sometimes a member of staff will get with you. Right.
Okay, there we go. My name is David Red. I'm a resident of West Jordan. I want to thank you guys for the time you guys took to look into the nuisance animal thing. But after listening to the proposal, there was a few things that I still had some concerns about. Addressing the nuisance animals, I brought this to you guys a long time ago. And the biggest thing that brought me there is who's responsible for these animals. And currently in the code, nuisance animals are defined basically as any animal that causes damage to property, vicious animal, careless, unreasonable, fouling the air by odors, causing unsanitary conditions. But the one thing with the licensing that you talked about that's still in the code is 6-3B-3, exemptions to licensing and fees, including community cats. Community cat sponsors or community cat caretakers do not have custody. So in the code, it's only defined as people as custody are responsible for the damage the animals cause. So I hope we can get that changed and addressed with your recent amendments.
Anyone else?
Okay, I'm Becky Williams. I'm a West Jordan resident. I've been in West Jordan with my husband for almost 23 years. And our beautiful Norway maples in our front parkway have been with us about 20 years. So I am here to talk about the tree clearance code that West Jordan recently changed. And just a thanks to Mayor Burton and Councilwoman Worthen, and then also Mr. Corbin Lee. I talked to him earlier today. So I've prepared a handout with the current West Jordan code, how it compares to our previous code, and then also the codes of other cities. And then I've also prepared a table that has the height of our public works vehicles. So currently the West Jordan code is 8 feet above the sidewalk, 15 feet above the parking lane, and 15 feet above the street. But if we look at our neighboring cities, Daybreak, which is in South Jordan, it has a sidewalk clearance of 7 and a street clearance of 13. Highland has a sidewalk clearance of 8 and a street clearance of 13, and then it goes all the way through. So the ones that have the highest street clearance are Salt Lake, West Valley, and Lehigh and Sandy, and they have a 14-foot tree clearance. So our West Jordan tree clearance is a full foot higher than that. And you may be thinking, who cares about a foot? But it actually makes a giant difference to a tree because of how a tree arches over. If it's cut a whole foot higher, by the time it gets to the middle of the street anyway, it's way over the 15. So my concern is that I wrote on here, the problem is that West Jordan's tree clearance code is 1 foot higher than nearby city codes. And the recent code change from 10 feet over the parking lane to 15 feet in many cases necessitates huge cuts on mature trees that could have been avoided had the code been changed earlier or clarified like the other cities. Then the smaller cuts would have been made on the tree, which is more sightly and would cause less damage. So I've put here a recommended solution to please change the West Jordan City Code to 8 feet over walkways and 14 over the street. This code was changed so recently that when I got my citation, I thought it was in error because I've always pruned my trees to be in code, and I called and they said, oh no, it's been changed, just not on the website. And so I'm saying to please change the code to 14 feet over the street, and then also please train the code enforcement officers to avoid unreasonable enforcement, such as demanding mature branches be removed if inches short of code. For example, a 14-foot code allows the compliance officer discretion citing violations since the highest city vehicle is actually 13.5, which is a fire truck or a semi that aren't usually in the neighborhood. So let's all work together to keep our urban forest beautiful. Thank you.
Mr. Anderson, she has handouts. Can she give them to you, please, and you can get them to us?
Just to you. I just
Is there anyone else that wishes to address the council?
I'm Karen Hyatt, also in West Jordan. I just wanted to coattail on what Becky said. yeah, just to make it clear, she planted her trees when the rule was that there was a 10-foot clearance over the parking lane. And to be fair, like our city is one of the smart cities that has three different, there's a sidewalk clearance and a parking lane clearance and then a street clearance, which is smart because trees don't grow right in a right angle. They arch over. So that's really smart. But again, they changed it just abruptly in this year from 10 to 15 to match the street over the parking lane. So now it's 15 over the parking lane, which is, like she was saying, unrealistic for mature trees that have been there and planted with the 10-foot code in mind. So I would propose a grace period of a certain period of years. An arborist that I talked to said at least 5, but you'll have to, talk to your arborist, but a grace period in which, because he was pointing out that if you cut a limb off, then that limb stops getting big around, okay? So it maintains its diameter while the tree trunk diameter grows. So if you allow the tree to grow after you've cut a limb a little bit, not where the code enforcement would be. So if you chop the branch and disrupt the growth of the branch, then you can allow the tree to get bigger. And when you cut it at the trunk, it's a much smaller wound. So it's noteworthy that she did trim her trees after her first citation to a degree. And so her trees are now much higher than they have been for years. And fire trucks, snow plows, every vehicle, street sweepers have been up and down our street for these past years without any obstruction from her trees. So it hasn't caused a problem. So I would append this request not only for her to have a grace period, but also if we could treat the code as specific with specific complaints. So if someone complains about a specific tree, address that. Because nobody complained about her tree. It was a totally different tree that did need to be cut over the sidewalk. It was too low for all of us, but somebody didn't go to the person, they went to the city. And then the city blanketed our whole neighborhood, our trees, everyone's trees that weren't causing any problems. So I would ask that you maybe look at code enforcement and see about addressing specific concerns when they come in, instead of blanketing the whole neighborhood where there aren't any problems. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to address the council?
Hi, my name's Dave Holmes. I've been a resident of West Jordan for over 30 years. Came earlier to the planning meeting, the meeting that was discussed, and one thing that I didn't feel was covered efficient enough is there seems to be a lot of concern and welfare for the cat that we're dealing with. And I like animals, okay? Everybody's stated that in here, that nobody's got anything against animals. But when time came to clean out my garden boxes this last month that are 18 inches high, I had to take out about a foot of dirt. And I got a lot of dirt I got to bring in next spring because it's full of cat feces in a garden that we couldn't even use. And so we talked about the safety of the cat, but let's think about the safety and the health of us, the humans, which I think we're a little bit more intelligent than cats, even though they're smart, because the traps that we're allowed to use don't work on these cats. They've been caught so many times, they know to avoid them. And once they are trapped, they know how to roll in them to escape from them. I've sat there and watched it. And so either untie our hands to where you can use traps that are more efficient, or do something that we can do to limit this problem. All the ideas and things that were discussed, I think, is a good starting point. But from what I can see, there's more to go. And because the problem that started all this in our neighborhood was all the cat feces. My flower bed in front of my house, I went on Amazon and they sell these mats of rubber spikes. And I put them everywhere, and exactly where I didn't put them, that's where the cats go do their thing. And it's not cheap. And so just bear that in mind. There's more to go. You'll probably hear more from our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to address the council? Okay, seeing none, I will end public comment time and bring this to executive reports to the council. Mayor.
Thank you, Council Chair Whitelock. So this past couple of weeks have been excellent and good busy ones. I got to attend the summit on the new look of transportation, and so you're probably starting to think, oh, is this like the Jetsons type thing? Well, no, it was actually more on active transportation they discussed it, because the governor has committed to increasing active transportation throughout the state for scooters, bicycles, walking, things like that, and he wants to see trails connect between cities and other regions and tie together. So the state will be putting out some money for locals like us to take a look at that. So we'll be taking a look at that and seeing how we can improve our trails throughout our city. So you'll be seeing more of that. I did attend the second annual Salt Lake Summit, and they don't have answers yet, but they have a lot of questions, and I'm sure we'll be hearing more of that as time goes forward. So the best thing about that is the state is researching it and trying to come up with some ideas and things they can do to help save the Great Salt Lake, if it can't be done or if it's going to revert itself back. I told them just to take the Bangor pumps and put them in reverse. They didn't think that was funny. I did. The South Valley Regional Airport had their master plan open house here in West Jordan. Some of you I know attended that. There were a fantastic turnout for residents. They're going to be having a couple of more of those as that goes along. If you have any interest on the airport that's not owned or run by West Jordan, but located in West Jordan, I would encourage you to pay attention and attend the others. They're looking at doing some improvements on the airport, and those improvements will encourage more aircraft to fly in West Jordan. And the Hawthorne Academy came and did a tour of the police department and the fire department, and they invited me to come and have lunch with them. And so I did, and it was a lot of fun. We had lunch over here at the pavilion. There were probably about 75 to 80 kids, all third graders. They packed the place. It was a lot of fun. We had these little West Jordan hacky sacks that I gave them. Each one got one. I passed them out. A few minutes later, this surprised me. I wasn't expecting it. They all got in line. They brought their hacky sacks to me, and they wanted the mayor to autograph their hacky sacks. So, did you know you can use a pen and write on hacky sacks? It actually worked. On October 22nd, last week, my wife and I attended the West Jordan Symphony Fall Concert. It was held over here at the Meridian. And our West Jordan Symphony has improved so much over the years. I've been attending it for, I don't know how many years, lots of years. It was spectacular. Next time you have an opportunity to go listen to the West Jordan Symphony, take that opportunity. Make sure you get there early, though, because it was full and sold out. And a couple of things coming up. There's going to be a Lady Jack's Monster Mash fundraiser that's happening at West Jordan High School. Our police department is going to have a booth over there, and they're going to hold that out inside in their parking lot. That's coming up on October 29th for Halloween. So if you get an opportunity to go there and check that out, that'd be great. And keep in mind, we will have a Veterans Day program coming up. That'll be at the Meridian Event Center on November 11th, which is Veterans Day. And I hope to see you there as well. And that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lee.
Thank you, Chair. I have two updates. One from the Public Services Department, giving you an update on some things happening in the Highlands Special Assessment Area, and an update from Public Works about some of the road projects in the city.
Thank you, Council. Two updates are in the Highlands Special Service Area. The new staff that was hired out there, Zach, has been working tirelessly all summer to address several of the major complaints out there. One of the largest is the fire break between the natural grass area between the trail and the back of homes. He has installed a fire break that will be completed this week in there. We're just waiting for the temperatures to warm up a little bit to put in the curbing, and then they'll pull the rock back down to the finish of that, and that fire break will protect
it provides a 15-foot barrier between all the houses and their fences. So excited for that. I wasn't asked to share this, but I'm going to. There's Christmas lights in front of City Hall right now. They're actually in the middle of finishing up installation right now. So those will be turned off and won't be turned on until after Thanksgiving. So I apologize for that. Oh, that's not my way.
Thanks, Council Chair. Just a few updates. 8600 South Bridge project is now out to bid, finally. Bids are due back on the 29th. The project's scheduled for 1 year of construction, barring no supply chain issues. Isaac can attest to that. And it's slated to start late spring, early summer of 2023. Secondly, to assist with some of the congestion on 7800 South, staff went out last week, widened some of the shoulder areas out to open up that right turn lane to take more traffic instead trying to help it not back up into the roundabout until we get the widening, the good widening, the solid widening done. So striping will take place this week on that, and there'll be 2 lanes there.
Brian?
Yes.
Can you, since we have folks here for that specific road, when is the widening going to occur?
It's in design right now, so I don't have a firm date on that yet.
Right, but 2 years, a year,
Probably
3 years?
2.
Thank you.
And lastly, the out-of-house overlays are completed. All the concrete's been replaced, and we're moving to punch list items. So thank you for your patience with that. That was a rough time there for a little bit. So, but thank you. That's all I got.
Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Lee?
Nothing further.
And can I just, Mr. Lee, can I just tell you, thank you to you and Isaac for the creative idea to help solve some of the construction problems. I don't know if that's ready for announcement, but I'll just say thank you for your creative ideas and fast work on that. So thank you.
The next thing on our agenda is a presentation by Dr. Flint from Utah State University. Cassidy, would you like to introduce this, please?
Yes, so several months ago, I asked if the council would like to participate in the USU Wellbeing Survey. However, Marie had beat me to the punch and was already talking with Dr. Flint about our community participating. And this is really exciting because Dr. Flint has a really interesting background in the sense that she's interdisciplinary, which means she studies really cool things. She both works as a natural resource sociologist with community, and she talks about environment as a social science, which means she not only says, okay, what is happening with environments, but how are people affected by it and how do people affect the environment? So I just find that really fascinating and great. On her bio at USU, it says she prioritizes providing sound data to support local and regional decisions on land use, natural resource management, and local and regional well-being. So we asked her to present to the council tonight, and I'm excited to hear what she has to say. Dr. Flint.
Great, thank you so much. Will you be advancing the slides or can I share my screen?
Alan, what's the answer?
You can share your slides.
Okay, great. If you could stop sharing, then I'll share mine. That will probably be more efficient. Thanks so much. All right. Super. Well, it's so great to be with you this evening. Can you see my slides okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. And apologies for the date on that. It is October 26th, not September 27th. But I'm so pleased to have West Jordan City as a partner on this project. And I'm going to share with you a few of the findings from our 2022 Wellbeing Survey. We do this survey all over the state. We've been doing this back to 2019. And our general goals are to provide Utah City leaders and staff with information on how people are doing in terms of their overall well-being, various perspectives on local issues of residents. We hope that this helps to inform planning processes and decision-making. We also use the work to support comparative research on well-being, and increasingly we're bridging efforts with state agencies and other larger scale operations, and they're really excited to have all these data to compare with everything they've got going. All of our 2022 reports are online. At this time, West Jordan's report is up there on the website, and I encourage you to take a look when you have a chance. So this is an online survey that we roll out. We do this at no cost to the cities, and we can do this because we partner with the cities to help with recruitment and advertising. We feel you know best how to reach your residents, and it keeps our costs down as low as we can. In 2022, this year that you joined us, we had 672 viable surveys returned, which is absolutely great. It allows us to really reduce our margin of error on our surveys. We track a lot of demographics, and this is not to be nosy. This is really so we can be very transparent about who we're hearing from and who we're not hearing from. And we heard in West Jordan from 99% were full-time residents. The average length of residence was just over 16 years. 21% had lived in West Jordan for 5 years or less, meaning we are getting input from these newcomers into the community. But just like with many online survey efforts, the survey does underrepresent men, those who are non-white, those without a college degree, those who are unmarried, those who rent, and those who are in that younger adult age bracket. All of these are very common with online survey techniques. So if we get right into the results, the personal well-being with West Jordan, and again, we don't define well-being because we believe that it's everything that makes up a good life. That goes back to Aristotle in ancient Greece. And so at first, we just let people define this term for themselves. And on a scale of 1 to 5, 80% in West Jordan said a 4 or a 5. The average was right there at about a 4.03, right at the average of all of our cities in the state. When we get to community well-being, how would you say community is for the city, for those in the city of West Jordan? The numbers go down a bit, and they do for every city. And you're right there, just very close to average, with 54% saying 4 or 5. If we look at the insides of well-being, we ask folks to rate 10 different categories or domains of well-being that are very common and standard across the country and the world. And then we ask them to rate those as well. So we can create this matrix for you. And this helps us to see that the highest rated categories of well-being are living standards, mental and physical health, education, and safety and security. The most important, those very same domains. So you've got this enviable position of having those most important domains rated the highest, meaning that you don't have anything in what we call the red zone down here on the lower right. So that's just really a great finding for West Jordan City. We also asked the degree to which people take action together in response to local problems or opportunities. We call this perceived community action. And West Jordan ends up on a little bit on the lower side, but this is the largest city that we have in the project to date at, over 115,000 people there. It's much more of an urban setting. And that's hard for people to come together and really act together on problems and opportunities at that city level. So there's an understanding there that we have with that positionality. When we look at how connected people feel to West Jordan as a community, we're a little on the low side. Again, harder to feel that connection in a very urban space, but this might be an important thing to focus some energy on if you're interested in the future. We found that actually overall community connection is pretty strongly correlated with personal well-being. The more connected people feel to their community, the higher their personal well-being is. That finding across the state, and particularly in West Jordan, led us to dive into some resources. How can cities help build that sense of community belonging and connection? And we put a whole bunch of resources onto our website. We started with community connection, but we have built out across 8 different areas that are of concern to many cities. And so we encourage you to check out those resources. We've got a lot of city-specific information from other cities around the country, not academic, jargony stuff, just really accessible resources. So we encourage you to take a look at that. This year we asked about participation in recreation and nature-based activities. You've got a lot of folks who enjoy gardening and enjoy their birds and wildlife in their yard and neighborhood, recreating in their parks, walking, jogging, biking, or other uses of the trails in the city. Really, about 3/4 of your respondents engage in these things. But non-motorized recreation, walking a pet, other things are also important to folks as well. And interestingly, we found that using the trails in your city and participating in city recreation programs was more likely to lead people to feel more of that community connection. So a really important thing, your trails and your rec programs are providing quite a service, it seems, to these residents, and they appreciate that sense of belonging. And people who participate in that motorized recreation on public lands or waters in Utah who are from West Jordan, their personal well-being is particularly higher. So they like that proximity to being able to do those things. Gardening is also connected with, tied to stronger community connections. So maybe there's a theme there that can be picked up on for the city. We asked about various landscape features. You know, generally these natural landscapes are so important to Utahns. We find that all over the place, but they're particularly high in West Jordan. You love your nature out there. The more human-dominated landscapes for development and industry, they're a bit more mixed. We get a variety of perspectives, as you might expect. Population growth is certainly something that's on people's minds. We've got 74% of our respondents from West Jordan saying that population growth is too fast. This is very common in many of the Utah communities. When it comes to the pace of economic development, on the other hand, we see a lot more varied responses between too slow, just right, too fast, and a couple people that didn't have an opinion. And then when we compare West Jordan here with the other communities of its type, we lump in those established mid-sized cities and cities of the first and second class together from the Utah League of Cities and Towns for the ease of reporting. But you can see here that West Jordan is right in with everybody else on that perception of population growth, but a little bit different than some of the nearby communities in terms of the pace of economic development. So interesting comparisons there. We asked about a variety of concerns for the future of West Jordan City, and we had a very strong majority of people indicate that they had moderate to major concern about a number of items. Almost everything here was at least 50% of the respondents. But the top 5 were water supply, topping the list this year. It's actually, in previous years with other cities, been considerably lower, sort of in the 60s and 50s, and this year it has shot up to the top. Air quality, also very high. Affordable housing, high everywhere, as our roads and transportation, particularly in the Wasatch Front. Public safety's up there too, and you can go down the list and see that you've got quite a few concerns as people look forward in the future of their community. And again, these aren't unique to West Jordan, they are quite common. We also ask what people value about West Jordan as a place to live and work. They love the social climate, they love the friendliness of their neighbors, they feel safe. They love the location. They feel they're close to the things that they need and want in their lives. And they've actually quite a few comments about affordability, which is a bit unique, we're hearing in this survey. We have pages and pages and pages of additional comments. People were very forthcoming. And this is a long list of the themes that those comments relate to, some positive, some not so positive, but there's a lot there for city leaders to absorb and read through, and I have shared that with your city staff folks. So, you know, you asked a couple specific questions this year in the survey. We always like to make room for that. 63% indicated that the number of events you hold is just right. That seems a very positive number. The attendance was highest for the Western Stampede and the food trucks. Not very many people had attended the small and tall ball or the monster truck rally, so participation is a little lower on those. The events that people had heard of were the small and tall ball, very much ahead of some of the others there. So hopefully that information gives you a little help with the marketing of your events. Contact preferences were asked about. What's the best way for the city to contact you as a resident? And the top ranked was social media, followed by email and text message. And then lower on the spectrum were that website, traditional mail, and the West Jordan Journal. In terms of the preferred ways for residents to express opinions to West Jordan City, email was right at the top of the list, followed by social media and a couple other things at that lower level. Involvement and communication, rating and level of involvement in the city of West Jordan, on the low side there, we've got only about 12% on that highest level of involvement, which, and then the city communication with residents, somewhere between fair and good, I think folks would say. And that's what we have for you today. There's more details in the report. Our next survey effort won't be until early 2024. We're going to take a year off. Survey fatigue is very real. We don't want to overburden folks with surveys. We also want to have a chance to do a deeper dive in with the data. We've got a course next semester where teams of senior students are going to work with partner cities. If you're interested, you can let me know. We get a team working with you on the data and resources and other efforts that you might need some help with. And then we're also going to do some fundraising because we've been running this project for about 40 cities on no more than about $10,000 or $15,000 a year, and that's not going to cut it moving forward. So I've got to get busy raising some funds to support this so that we can keep bringing this kind of data to you if you're interested in participating in the future. And with that, I'll close and take any comments or questions, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. This has been very informative. Council, do you have any questions or comments for Mrs. Dr. Flint? Councilmember Pat.
Thank you. The main question is, you mentioned that because of the largesse of our city compared to the relative demographics of population on the other cities, that kind of skewed the data. So is there like a standard deviation or a rate that we could apply to get a more accurate sense? Or would we have to wait until you study more densely populated cities?
You know, well, we have South Jordan, we've got Sandy, so the other cities are not necessarily small. You just happen to be the largest. So I would, as you look in there, look at some of those other larger cities that are included in the comparative data, and it'll give you a little bit of a sense of how you compare to some of those other larger cities. But we do hope in 2024 to encourage other of the larger cities in the state to participate so that we get a better sense of that. Otherwise, it's a little bit harder to compare. You certainly wouldn't want to compare with the other rural places in the list. Totally different.
Either that or move to Helper because they have the highest score. They seem to have a great quality of life. So.
There you go.
Oh, did you say that?
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Chair. There was a lot of really good information. Some things, number of ideas flying through my mind that I'd never considered before. So my request would be if it's possible to get the slide deck so we could amend it to the agenda so it's accessible, but also any of the raw data would be very helpful. Also a comment for Councilmember Green. I noticed that while the Memorial Day event and the Veterans Day event weren't highly attended, they were highly recognized. Councilmember Green has been pushing very hard for that, and that made me smile to see that. So thank you for bringing that data to light.
Vice Chair Green.
So my comment's going to be, and this is more directed to our council staff. There was an old Carpenter song back in the 1970s. Where do we go from here? Any of you remember that? He laughed. He remembers it. So you're getting old with me. Yeah. If you can remember Karen Carpenter. Do you remember that, Barbara? She's shaking her head too. Where do we go from here? There are some things that, as Councilmember McConaughey said, that there are some data here that I would love to be able to break down. I'm all in favor of working with Utah State, and if they've got a student, I'm all in favor of working with them with that data. So I would throw my support for that. But I'd also like to say, where do we go from here? How do we break this data down? How do we implement some of those things that if they are a quality of life issue, some of it may be advertising, some of it may be finishing a quarter mile of a trail. There may be lots of things that we can do, and I want to know, here's the bottom line. I don't want this data to go, that we go, that's nice, and we don't do anything about it. There are residents sitting out here, there are staff sitting out here, and we need to be able to take that data and help move the city forward. And there's a couple of things that are surprising. There were a couple, both on good and bad, that we need to work on, and I want to work on those.
Just so everyone knows, we are putting this on a committee of the whole. Ms. Hanson's going to work on the data a little bit, and then we'll have a good discussion at a committee of the whole meeting. Councilmember Bloom.
I just wanted to say when that gardening was number one, I was thinking of you, and I was like, we got to get you back to gardening. That's all.
All right. Does anyone have any questions or comments left for Dr. Flint? Seeing none, I will just once again thank you. This is great data. We appreciate being a part of your study, and we wish you well in the future.
Thank you so much for having me. I look forward to working with you again in the future. I'll be in touch. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is a public hearing. Ordinance number 22-48, amending the city's annual budget for fiscal year 2023. Ms. Steck, are you addressing this? And if I was a resident, I'd stay for this part because it's your money. But, you know.
Thank you, Council Chair. We're bringing to you ordinance number 2248, and we'll just quickly go over the items that are affecting the budget or that we're asking for your permission to expend. The first is to load in council benefits and to remove it out of contingency. So take $3,500 out of contingency and put it into council benefits. That would take care of any tickets or any other things for events that council members may use during the year. The second item in the general fund is $158,000, and this would be for the other piece of, when we did the budget amendment in August with the truth in taxation, we talked to you about using alcohol or liquor tax money to do some police expenditures. One of those expenditures is a system called Axon camera system, which will increase dash cameras for our police vehicles, body cameras for all officers, and our evidence storage. It will save a lot of time and effort for the police to collect that evidence as well. The alcohol tax will be paying for $73,856. That's already in the budget. You already approved that. The other piece of that would be for additional cameras so that all officers will have body cameras, and that's $158,000. In the CIP fund, we have several requests. The first, though, is we're asking to receipt or approve the revenue recognition of $315,000 of corridor preservation money that is given to us by Salt Lake County for some property that we're going to be acquiring from Rocky Mountain Power on the 86 South project, 8600 South project. So we'll receive that revenue in, and then we'll expend that revenue on that property acquisition or right-of-way acquisition. TRCC grant for the Big Bend project for the urban fishery and the meandering of the Jordan River in that area. That's a $500,000 grant, and we would need to do revenue and expense, so that offsets each other. The next one in the CIP fund is the 90th South Betterment Agreement with UDOT. You discussed this agreement in September of 2021, a long time ago. It's finally coming back around with money attached to it. So it's $298,874 for plants and drip irrigation that we put into the center sections, and $11,830 to powder coat the signals. So those two are general fund monies out of the CIP fund. This project will also need $143,100 out of the water fund for some of the water system enhancements. The sewer system enhancements were included in the budget. We were aware of those prior to adopting the budget. And then finally, the addition of more street lighting in that area for $159,750 coming out of the street light fund. Those are your budget amendment items. Most of them are budget neutral outside of the 90th South Betterment Agreement and the police cameras. Are there any questions about any of these items? We have staff to answer betterment questions if you.
Are there any questions for Ms. Steck or anyone else in staff before I open the public hearing? Councilmember Worthen.
I guess I don't have a question. Just, I was against the fact that we needed money to have tickets to go to different events unless we're hosting somebody. So I don't like the idea that still, if we want to go to something, we should buy our own tickets. That's it.
Okay. I don't see any questions.
Thank
so
you.
I will go ahead and open the public hearing. If you're here to speak on this, please indicate by coming to the lectern. And actually, my Zoom disappeared. So if Councilmember McConaughey is on, or Alan, if you are, as last time I was there were only 2 people online. Okay. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the council for debate and possible motion. Vice Chair Green.
My comment on this is, how do I want to say this? I want to talk at some point in time. I think we need to talk about the rest of 90th South. We saw the email. Brian, thank you for that information. That was good information.
We can't close both doors because then it'll be a problem. Yes. One, thank you.
Otherwise, we violate the Open Meeting Act. So thank you for the information on 90th South and the betterments. I want to talk more about if we want to expend $500,000 to make sure, because I think, wasn't that the number, Brian, about $500,000 for the wall?
Estimated at about, $500,000.
I did, at some point in
To have
time.
matching wall.
Right.
Yeah.
I would like to make, if somebody else would agree, I see at least one council member's nod.
I believe we asked for it when we first had this
Yeah.
discussion and somehow it didn't happen. So I'm fully in favor.
So I want to have that discussion about the wall. Whether we fund it or not, I want to have that discussion about if we want to pay for it and make sure that 90th South between 10th West and 13th West looks the same and not hodgepodge. So we need that discussion. Other than that, I am going to tell you that I'm firmly in favor of the police cameras. I know that those police cameras save us. I will just relate so the citizens know this. We had a very, for lack of a better term, pointed complaint on the West Jordan Police Department. We got the letter, Mayor, you saw, I forwarded you the email, I forwarded that chief of police, we all saw it. And the body cam came back and gave a different story. And it shows a totally different perspective. And of course, there's two sides to every story. But that body cam on that officer saved a lot of grief for our department and instilled in the fact that our officers are professional and that we have got, and for those of you who are sitting here, if you don't know this, we have the best police department in the state, and we have, and I can't leave Derek because he's sitting back there in the cheap seats. We have the best fire department in the state. We have the best public safety departments in the state, and I'm not going to let that go unfunded. So I will be in favor of the budget amendment.
Brian, when would we need to have a discussion about the wall on 90th and have a ask of you?
Sooner than later, it won't be a betterment. It'll be a project that we're.
If you'd
Can you
push the
turn the
right
mic on?
side, we'd appreciate it.
My first time at council meeting. Yeah.
I remember my first
It
time.
would be just a separate project. We wouldn't add it as a betterment. And that's if the residents will even go for it, because if residents don't want it, we can't force them to do it. So there's one section, after UDOT puts their masonry walls in on the north side, there will be one house resident that has like a foundation wall and then a wooden fence on top of the foundation wall. That'll be the only house along that stretch that really doesn't have any sound wall protection. But it is not going to match. I mean, it's all different phasing the whole way down that road. But it would be a separate project. I wouldn't include it with it'll be probably double this if we had UDOT do it. So.
Right, but just time frame. Does the council need to have that discussion in the next 3 months or 6 months or?
I would say in the next 3 months.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Chair. I was going to ask if there's something we could do with this motion to include those non-betterments, but if it's going to be treated as a separate project, Although
I
saw
would
Ms. Steck
agree, though, you may choose to amend this ordinance and include $500,000 for wall betterments on 90th South. We can put it in the budget, and then you can discuss how you want that to look, so that we don't have to come back for a budget amendment and your timing isn't as critical. You can then have those discussions during any meeting.
So I would, I would prefer then a motion to approve. I'll just throw a motion out there, but first, my thought would be that the additional funding would come from fund balance at the time. But then what does that number need to be? Brian, you were saying double. Would 500,000 be sufficient to start? Does it need to be an additional million?
I was just saying if we went through UDOT, which they won't allow, I already tried to get cost on that and they won't entertain it. Right now, rough estimate's about 500,000. If we did the project, if it was a betterment, it's probably a third to half more. So of the 500,000. But we can't do a betterment, so it's not even an option.
Yeah, so separate item. Ms. Steck, how would you suggest verbiage for a motion that included that separate item?
So I would suggest that you move to approve ordinance 2248 with the amendment to add $500,000 to the CIP budget for the specific project of sound walls on 90th South.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion by Councilmember McConaughey, a second by Councilmember Whitelock. Any discussion to the current motion?
I'm just going to throw out a
Go
weird,
ahead, Vice Chair Green.
a weird comment, sorry. I think that going forward in the future, and I'm gonna have, I'll throw Council Parliamentarian Anderson under the bus. Procedurally, I think sometimes it's better if we would amend it and then vote, and then amend the bill and then vote on it, and instead of trying to tack an amendment to it, because sometimes those amendments get lost. So maybe in the future we do that better, but I'm not going to oppose this.
Any other discussion of the motion?
Just FYI that I will be rewriting the ordinance prior to signature with the new language, so it will not get lost. So it will be in the ordinance that's signed, so it will be fine.
Okay. Seeing no further lights, Cindy, Miss Quick, if you would like to have us vote, please.
Thank you. Councilmember Worthen?
I'll vote yes, but I already stated my protest on the 3,500. So
Okay. Chair Whitelock?
Yes.
Vice Chair Green?
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Councilmember Pack?
Yes.
Councilmember Bloom?
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. Next item on our agenda is business item ordinance number 22-46, setting the 2023 City Council annual meeting calendar and other City Council boards and committees. Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Council. I'm bringing this to you a little earlier. We are required by state law to present your or have you adopt your annual meeting calendar for the next year. The reason I'm bringing it to you early is so that we can load these dates into PrimeGov so we can begin loading next year's meetings. I did have three options that are being presented to you tonight. So the first one I'm calling option A, and in your packet you'll have an option A and an ordinance for option A, an option B and an ordinance for option B, and an option C calendar and an option C ordinance. So this is your traditional calendar. This is what you have done. The council has held for years, second and fourth weeks every month except for November and December. We shift to the first and the third weeks. The city code that you've adopted to put this together has asked that it highlight when the legislative session begins, National League of Cities Conference, the ULCT. I've also included the Western Stampede. It is an election year, so I've also included the primary election. If we have a primary, all 4 district seats will be up for election and the mayor's seat will be up for election. That primary election, if held, would be on August 15th. We would then have a Board of Canvass meeting that's required on August 29th. The October date for the Utah League, they're tentatively looking at the 4th through the 6th, but that has not been confirmed with me yet. And I also don't have the November conference with the National League of Cities, which is normally in November. General election will be November 7th, and you will have a Board of Canvass on the 21st. And then I'd like to continue with the tradition we started in 2021 where we have a training program, but I would like to just include that as part of the calendar. This would be for any of the council members that are re-elected or newly elected, and that would be held on the second Wednesday in December, which is December 13th. We'll just call it New Council Training. So option A is what you've done traditionally. Option B, which you did this last year, includes committee of the whole meetings every week in May and the first meeting in June to go through the budget. So option B is everything else is the same other than May and June, you're focused on the budget. And then option C is kind of a hybrid. This one separates the committee of the whole meeting and changes some of the times. So this would be just a city council meeting only on the second and fourth Wednesdays of each month, and then a committee of the whole meeting only on the third Wednesday of the month. I do believe that that will, even though it's an extra day, I do believe that the time commitment would be less. It also would allow the city council meeting to start a little bit earlier, and we would not have the time constraints that we currently have with committee of the whole to have more robust discussions. It also means that I think we cannot do weekly meetings in May and early June dealing with the budget because I think you can work on that in May and June. So what's in the ordinances that's attached to the packet is on option A, the committee of the whole work session, just like we are doing now, begins at 5:30 p.m. City council meeting follows at 7. Option B is the same format, 5:30 and 7 with the extra meetings in May and June. And then the proposal for C is the third Wednesday would be the committee of the whole beginning at 5:30. And the city council meeting would just be the second and fourth Wednesday beginning at 6 p.m. And those are what I'm offering to you, and we're open to any and all suggestions that meet your various schedules to get the work of the council done. That's what I have for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Council, does anyone have anything they want to share? Councilmember Bloom, then Councilmember Worthen.
I am a huge fan of the C. I think meeting more and having our work session not be curtailed by time so we can actually have effective discussions on things coming up will allow our city council meetings to be more effective and be not till midnight. I think that we are a big enough city and we have enough issues that I think it's about time that we meet a little bit more often to address issues.
Councilmember Worthen.
I would agree with that, but I don't know if you'll get the votes, but I would agree with that.
I would say if you agree and she agrees, you've got the votes.
I know. Well, I agree. But I also like, I guess I would like a cross between B and C because I think we do need to have those extra meetings in May and June for the budget. There's a lot to discuss, so I kind of sit with even more meetings than C. So.
Oh, I just want to say with
That's
C,
where I'm
I
at.
think if we don't need the extra meeting, we can always not do it too.
Yeah.
Are you done, Councilmember Worthen?
Yeah, I'm never done, but yeah, I'm good for now.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Chair. Alan, could you bring up was it option B, the one we basically did this year?
A.
B is...
Yeah, because we added, that's right.
So this one was really difficult for me. Council is not a full-time job. It's part-time. Most of us have regular full-time employment outside of this. Mine requires a fair amount of travel. And with May, every single week, that makes it really difficult. If we did have to do something on another night, I'd rather see it be Tuesday or Thursday of the same week rather than every other week. One of my frustrations with what we had this year was unless you were one of the 3 council members on the budget committee meeting, or you were able to make those off week meetings, your first chance to talk about the budget came in June when everything had really been pretty much finalized. There wasn't a good opportunity there for me to participate. So if there does need to be something extra, I would rather see it on the same week as council rather than the off week to bring the potential conflict there. That said, I still think that there's a lot that can be done to keep things on track in the regular meetings, and not prolong them other than having to throw an extra night on the calendar. Option C, can you jump ahead to that one? A little bit closer, but same thing. I'm not really understanding what we would. I'm not really seeing what we would gain by adding another night. Here, you're still increasing the number of nights the council has to meet, the number of nights that staff has to be here by 50%. That's quite a bit. And if you're saying that the time for the meetings will be less, that's great. But I mean, overall, is it going to work out to be about a wash, or is it going to be flashing about conversations about traffic? We talk about making the roads wider, it creates induced demand, and people will drive if there's a road there. People will speak if there is a meeting, and the time, I worry, will be filled, and soon we'll find ourselves in the same place saying, well, we need more meeting time because we're not able to get done what we need to. I would prefer that we go with option A, but maybe add a couple additional meetings the same week, like perhaps on May 11th and May 25th for budget conversations rather than blocking out that entire month. That's my thought. Thank you, Chair.
Vice Chair Green, and then, oh, actually, Council Member Pack, you haven't spoke yet, so it is your turn. The floor is yours.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I know there's pros and cons either way, and whenever you try to solve one problem, you inadvertently create another. And I agree that it takes a great meeting to beat no meeting at all. I want to make sure that we cover the business that we need to cover. And I see the good intent of having more meetings. Just my personal opinion, I'd rather meet longer instead of have additional days. What was it long last time getting out of here at midnight? Yes, but it's taking the whole night basically anyway, unless we're done before 10 for a good bacon cheeseburger, right? But but my idea is, one of Murphy's laws is the length of the meeting will expand. Another way of saying it is we know that we need to be done by 6:50 prior to this starting at 7. And my thought is, because I've just seen this happen over and over again, without a definitive end time on that other Wednesday, on the off Wednesdays in the gray circles, that the conversations could go on ad nauseum. And if we're going to be starting later anyway, I would rather, I don't want to shortchange the time that we have together. I want to be aware of other council members' schedules, and I would be more in favor of just meeting longer on the nights that we're meeting instead of adding additional nights. Understandably, we need some extra meetings for budget, and if it helps to keep it on the same week, do a back-to-back session, I'm amenable to that. Or if we do need to have the off Wednesday a couple of times, that works too. I'd just like to get us all here. And when you mess with the schedule to accommodate certain people's schedules, then invariably other people can't attend. So in summary, I would say meet longer on the nights that we're meeting versus taking up additional nights when possible. Thank you.
Vice Chair Green?
If we're worried about staff time, then our meetings need to start at noon. We are the only city that doesn't meet in the afternoons. Salt Lake City starts someplace around noon, and so does Provo, someplace between noon and 2. If we're worried about staff time, then let's start meeting earlier. And by the way, Salt Lake City meets a whole lot more than we do. Sandy City meets a whole lot more than we do. West Valley, Taylorsville, Sandy, I said Sandy. They meet more than we do. And why do they, and Provo, and why do they meet more than us? Because they're getting into the details that they need. We gloss over stuff. We don't get in the detail. And to be honest with you, making meetings go until midnight, making policy decisions at 10 o'clock at night, that's left for the legislature on the last day of the session, not for a standard operating procedure for a city council. I just don't think we spend the quality time. You saw what happened tonight with the cats. You saw what happened tonight with Mr. Davenport and the water plan. We talked about the water master plan was 353 pages long. What was that?
I think it was 365.
I may be wrong. Kayleen says it was 36. Anyway, it was 300 and something pages long. And we got to talk about the first 3 pages, the first 4 pages. And there is data in there that we need to talk about. That do we really want our water master plan based on that? I'll just tell you, I question some of the data that was used by the consultant when he puts down that in the West Jordan TAZ, which they were using a traffic analysis, says West Jordan City has 110,000 people when the United States Census in 2020 says we have 117,000. I question that. And I want to be able to work on that. I want to be able to work on what the best practices are. We list 9 of 38 that we're doing, and we have no idea what the other 27 are. Are those kind of the water practices that we want to do? We're not doing the detail, and that's where I want to go, is to get someplace where we're getting the detail and we're getting the people's business done right.
Councilmember Bloom.
Am I correct, Alan, that when we go long meetings, this affects your guys' the staff work week, because you guys then have to take that time off for the rest of that week?
I would answer and just say that exempt employees work with that, balancing their work-life balance. The non-exempt employees does create either overtime issues or comp time issues. So the last council meeting that went till midnight was 7 hours, and that means most of the non-exempt employees had to take a day off to be at their 40 hours and not subject to overtime.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's why I'm in favor of meeting more that more once a week rather than in the same week, because it allows staff to get what they need to be done during the week rather than giving that overtime if we're meeting so many times in the same week or a very long meeting.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Chair. I kind of like what Councilmember Green suggested. Often with work schedules, there have to be accommodations made to leave early anyway to be here on Wednesdays. So starting at 4 o'clock versus 5:30 wouldn't be too difficult. In the past, the council said, no, we're not going to do that. We want to be here in the evening when when the majority of the public is available to attend. I wouldn't be opposed to keeping things on Wednesdays, but bumping it up a couple hours and doing that. The other thing that we can do to help keep things on track, I do feel like we spend a lot of time during this meeting rehashing what's already in the slides and having somebody read the packet to us. If we could start right into the conversation, start with questions before having a 5 to 15 minute overview of what's already been provided, I mean, we could shave probably an hour off of each meeting right there. I would still prefer to stick to the 2 days a month if possible, but I do like the compromise of starting earlier in the day. Thank you.
Councilmember Worthen. And I have something to say before we go have a motion.
Okay. First of all, if we're going to move the meetings up into the work day, I think that has to be done for the new council. So people with jobs have the opportunity to know that they're going to have their work schedule interrupted. I don't have that option. I can't tell my work that, or I can't take that much PTO all the time. When I signed up for this, I knew the hours, I knew the commitment, and to change that commitment midstream is not necessarily fair to me. It might not be fair to others as well. I mean, Calvin said noon, you said 4, that's still not the end of my workday. So either one isn't going to work. And I made a commitment based on knowing what those hours are. Now, any evening is fine. You want to add more evenings? That's great. I mean, I made a commitment to my evenings, and my weekends are committed to council. That's absolutely not a problem. On the budget committee meetings, they were all committees of the whole. We did not do any budget committees that were 3 people. So everybody on this council had the opportunity to attend those. And we did it that way on purpose. So we had many meetings. Every person had the opportunity. I get that, you travel, but it wasn't reduced to just the 3 committee members. It was open to everybody. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a bad idea that you actually start meetings earlier, but I can't make that commitment midstream in the middle of my election. So I would, or excuse me, my service time. So I would definitely be against that. I think B is a good option. But I also think we need to maybe open up some committees of the wholes in the in-between Wednesdays when it's necessary. And the other thing is that, and hey, anybody that knows me well knows that I could talk for a long time, but I think it would make sense. There's something that we do at my work where we do limit how long we have to speak to be respectful of other people's time. We have a meeting, it's 30 minutes. These are the people speaking. This is the time you have. That's it. And so maybe that's what we do need to look at as council members. Our responses, 2 to 3 minutes. We don't get to ramble on for 5, 10, 15 minutes with anything. And if we're gonna ramble on for that long, we have that much to say, it should be taken outside of this meeting and directed at the staff members, whoever they need to be talked to. But as far as that kind of discussion, maybe we need to start limiting how much we're saying in these meetings.
Okay, some interesting things have been shared, and now I want to share my perspective. I feel that our role is to represent residents. I feel that our role is to come and have good dialogue and good debate and good discussion so that we can make the best decisions for our city. I feel like when we ran for this office, we said we wanted to serve the city, I hope. And we need to spend more time serving the city. I understand that sometimes dialogue goes a little longer than we desire, but many times I feel like we don't have enough dialogue. I don't feel our job is just to say yes to staff. I feel our job is to take what staff has to say, take what the residents have to say, and trust but verify. And I know that's what occurs every time there's a resident complaint. We trust but we verify. I don't know why it should be any different with staff. We need to trust what they're telling us but verify and make sure. And sometimes what they're telling us is the best thing for the city, and sometimes it might not be. And the only way we can have good discussion is if we spend time together and discuss. I, since day one, have said that we needed to have work meetings, and I'm very happy that we now have those, because when I first joined, all we did is have business meetings, and then there was no time because it's here's this, vote yes or no. And that makes it really hard, and I feel that makes it hard for staff. I think the things that we're forgetting in this discussion is, sure, we can get everything online and come and just vote, but who are we leaving out? We're leaving out the residents. For me, I've already read my entire packet. I read it all. I ask questions, I send emails. But what I can't do when I do that is I can't share with the residents. I can't have that on YouTube and on Zoom for those in the council chambers. If we just come and have dialogue, they're left out of a lot of it because they didn't see the slides that we saw. So I feel the slides are important, and a 5 or 10 minute introduction for a subject so that not only the council, but the rest of the staff that may not be in that department, and more importantly for our residents, they can all know what we're doing. And then hear our dialogue to know why we want to do it a certain way. I agree with Councilmember Worthen, although I can tell you that South Jordan, their work meeting is early in the morning. I don't remember if it was at 6 or 7. I just remember when I'd have to go to those, you'd get up early and get there. And I had to do that before I got my children off to school and hope that everything went okay once I was gone, right? So I totally get that there's concerns. I don't think that at this point, I think if we're going to change a start time, anything before 5, I think we would need to do that at an election cycle, because I do think that makes it hard on those that have jobs that can't be flexible time-wise. I too like calendar C, although I would say, along with Councilmember Worthen, I don't feel like that is enough, because we get the budget like the beginning of May, and that only gives us one work meeting to discuss the budget. Now, we have in the past, this year, we did discuss the budget during work meetings on regular nights, and we can do that, but that still makes me nervous. So I like C, but I would like to add a night or two, and if we don't need them, great, but maybe add. And I'm okay if Wednesdays are really hard and a Tuesday or a Thursday is better for the most of us, adding that day instead. But that would be my desire, and my vote will be for C. And I'd like to have some additional nights scheduled for budget so that we can plan. What I heard before, actually from Councilmember Pack, is it would sure be nice if I knew ahead when these meetings were, then I could adjust my schedule. And I thought, yeah, he's right. Sometimes your schedule gets booked out months in advance. So if we know already, it's easier to cancel something and either have, yay, a night for me, that would be probably watch something on Netflix and eat popcorn, or I could do something productive for my own life, right? So I would like C, and I would like to add a couple of budget meetings, and I don't care when they are. I do. I will not come on a Sunday, and Saturday nights I'm not a fan of either, and Saturday mornings I often work. So, but Monday through Friday, and I understand our concern for staff, and I get it, but I can tell you that I've had more than one staff member in a leadership position tell me that they appreciate our work meetings, and they appreciate getting some feedback before they bring us the item for us to say, oh, we totally hate that. Try again. Come back in 2 weeks. So I see value in them. Now I will go to Councilmember McConaughey and then Councilmember Green.
Thank you, Chair. So I agreed in principle with what Councilmember Worthen was saying, where changing the schedule to where it may potentially impact with somebody's work partway through the term is something that we should probably avoid. That's where I keep raising with my work. There's flexibility on the time, but not so much with the week. And that's where I'm saying having every single week blocked out where I have to be gone for a week at a time, that's the same thing to me as it is for asking somebody else to come on a Wednesday at noon. Having that every single week just doesn't give me the options there. So that's where I'm asking for that same flexibility and the same respect that's being asked for. Thank you.
Vice Chair Green.
Whatever calendar we adopt, May 3rd has to be the first night. It has to be a regular council meeting. That way, the council gets the budget by statute. The mayor has to provide the budget on the first council meeting, no later than the first council meeting of the month. If we have a full council meeting on May 3rd, then we get the budget a week early, and we have an extra week to play with the budget and do what we need to do. And so that's why B's actually in May is a good calendar.
But then that doesn't give, if you do C, that gives Chris a week every month.
Right. And so, okay, what we'll do, I'm going to be cynical, but what we do is we continue to do what we've always done to get the results that we've always got, and glad that we got the results that we got, and we get a mediocre result. So,
do you have a motion?
I'm going to, I don't know where I stand on this.
Okay.
I'm going to shut up.
Okay, we've had a lot of dialogue. I'm going to ask for the vote. Does someone have a motion? Councilmember McConaughey?
I move to table this to next week when we have all 7 members of council here and aren't as likely to come to a stalemate.
Mr. And parliamentarian motion to table, it should actually be a motion to postpone, correct?
Mm-hmm. But we haven't discussed that.
Yes. You could either motion to postpone indefinitely, which I would not recommend. Or,
No, we can't. We have to
but
adopt
the
a
motion
calendar.
was to table. I would say parliamentarian wise, it would be proper for a motion to postpone to the date that was provided.
Councilmember Pack.
Oh, thank you. So 2 questions just to make sure that I'm operating under correct assumptions.
Hang on. We have a motion on the table. Does anyone want to second the motion? No lights have gone on, so that motion fails. Councilmember Pack.
Thank you. It was more, thank you. It was question discussion based. So whether we start earlier and end earlier or start later and end later, it'd be the same basic amount of time. I understand making important decisions at 11 o'clock at night might not be the best, while also trying to get here very fast for an early afternoon meeting. Trying to get all your work in for the day could cause trouble on the front end. So I'm just trying to understand both ways. The other question that I had, probably for council or for Council Office Director Anderson and Mayor Burton, for staff, I have my assumption, but please help me know, which is the most imposing for staff? Starting earlier or going later? We've just heard, of course, going later can mean that PTO needs to be taken and staff might not come in for the next day or a day that's needed. Obviously, I would assume staff wants to work in the day and not stay as long, but then how does that impact work the next day? Because whether you're staying later and taking work off the next day or filling some of your work day with the council meeting and still not getting to the other work that you need to do, that impacts it as well. So just trying to understand and weigh the pros and cons there. Can you weigh in on that?
Council staff will do whatever council asks. I'll let the mayor speak for the mayor staff.
We're happy to be here.
Was that helpful?
No, but thank you. I'm grateful that everyone's happy to be here.
Okay. Councilmember Worthen.
All right, I'm just going to make a motion that we adopt option B. I think that's the happy medium in here. I would say B and C, but I don't think I'll get a. So I'm going to make a motion that we adopt option B.
You would get C. Do you want option B? Motion for what you want, because that you may get it.
All right, I'm just gonna motion that, I'll motion for option B. There.
Do we have a second for option B? Seeing that, Councilmember Pack.
If Councilmember Worthen would turn her mic off so that Councilmember Pack.
The lectern is still on.
Anne-Marie, would you mind? Thank you. She is the best librarian ever, and she doesn't live in our city, but she supports our city. We appreciate her. All right, we have a motion on the table by Councilmember Worthen and a second by Councilmember Pack to adopt option B in the calendar. Is there discussion to that motion?
Yes. Oh, sorry.
Councilmember Pack.
discussion to my own second. So could you please put up, Mr. Anderson, A, B, and C again, just to make sure there's no faulty assumptions here. Here's A, which we have currently done this year. Well, we did B. I mean, these are the regular council meetings, but the gray circles aren't there for committee of the whole. So that's more time intensive, just in May and June for the budget. Mm-hmm. And then C is the every month third, which we might not need November and December anyway, but okay. Right, we would probably add more in May anyway because we would need time to do the budget. So now we're meeting 3 weeks of the month, plus we're still going to have more meetings added in May and early June, I would presume. Is my own rhetorical outside of my own head thinking here as for the discussion. Thank you.
I still contend that we have a lot of work for this city and that work meetings are very beneficial because you can have better dialogue. And when we have to cut them to go to our next meeting, we don't have the best dialogue sometimes, and we're in a hurry. And I'm still a fan of option C with adding a couple of work meetings pre-scheduled in there. And I realize that it takes up more of our time. And I realize that when we ran, what the city was doing was different. But what we're doing now is different than from when I signed up to run too. So some change is inevitable. There will still be a week available for Councilmember McConaughey. I think we should maybe look at May and move, if we meld option B and C, I would move one of those so that we're not meeting every week hearing that concern. So I will be voting no just because I feel that we need to do the people's work. Councilmember Bloom.
I'm 100% in agreement with you, Chair Whitelock. I also travel a lot, and on the weeks that we would, have work session or whatnot, I do plan doing that virtual, but I still think that's important that we do have that dialogue so that we can make our meetings beneficial to a higher level than we currently are.
Councilmember Pack.
Thank you, Chair. So trying to be respectful to everyone's schedule, noting as Councilmember Worthen mentioned it's hard to get here prior to when we're currently starting, and also on the off week, Councilmember McConaughey would have a challenge. Also, yes, I don't disagree that we couldn't benefit from additional time, which we have here. If we're feeling that 5:30 to just before 7 isn't sufficient time, what about other brainstorming options of starting council meeting at 7:30 so that we have another half hour? Right. It goes later. Either way, it's earlier, it's later, we're meeting more or less, just trying to throw out some options. Because I know there's head shrugs and head nods, whether there's more meetings, fewer meetings, longer meetings, earlier meetings, later meetings. So just trying to throw out some brainstorming options.
We have a motion on the table. Is there any further discussion to this motion? We have a motion by Councilmember Worthen, a second by Councilmember Pack. Let's vote.
Thank you. Okay, hang on. Okay, so I showed the motion was
Option B.
to adopt option B.
Yep.
Correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and Councilmember Worthen motioned
And Councilmember
seconded.
Pack
Thank you. I
seconded.
apologize.
Yep,
Thank you
that's
for
okay.
just clarifying that with me. Vice Chair Green,
No.
Councilmember Bloom,
No.
Councilmember Worthen,
Yes.
Councilmember Pack,
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey,
No.
and Chair Whitelock.
No.
Okay, so I show the motion failed 2-4.
I have that too.
Is that correct? Thank you.
Yes. So, Mr. Anderson, our parliamentarian, can we bring a different motion to the table now?
You may, as long as it's not B.
Okay. Councilmember Bloom.
I make a motion that we adopt option C with the option of adding additional budget days in May.
Would you like to state which days?
I think that we can do that. We can do that at a later time, or do we need to choose that today?
I would maybe add the 9th. And then if we needed another one, because that would give you 2, and that would give you the budget a little sooner, but
Yeah,
we can do whatever we want.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want. I would suggest including it with the motion as we prepare the calendar. With C and having the option of the 17th as a full work session, you could just imagine that would maybe go a little bit longer. And that, I think, would preclude having to meet every single week. Councilmember Green, I know, has an interest in May 3rd having a council meeting so you can receive the budget a week earlier than typical. But I don't think you'd need, with option C, I do not believe that you'd need to meet every week in May.
Well, then I would amend that for adding an additional day if needed on May 9th.
Well, the 9th would be when we'd get the budget
Well, then
then,
I think
because that would be the first night we'd be meeting. But the 3rd, then we don't allow Councilmember McConaughey a full week. That's why it said the 9th. It's your
That's why I
motion.
was doing tentative
Yeah.
on adding a day that sees fits for our council.
Mr. Anderson would like you to add a day. But it's your motion. Ultimately, it is your motion. So.
All right, for option C with the discretion of the council to meet an extra day in May at, what do you think, Alan? I'm asking for your advice on this one. Because I know we may not have to meet, but I want to have that option in case we do.
You can choose either May 3rd or you can choose May 9th.
Okay, I'm going to just go with May 9th so we have that week open.
I'll second that. Any discussion to the current motion, which is to adopt calendar option C with the addition of the 9th being added as a budget workshop to receive the budget. Any discussion to that motion? Did you have something to add, Mr. Anderson?
I just wanted to remind the council that that also means that the work sessions on the 3rd Wednesday would be at 5:30 and council meeting would begin at 6. So it would be different than what you're currently doing.
Okay. Councilmember Pack, do you have discussion to the motion?
Thank you. Yes, discussion is, on this motion, I wonder if we can't just add additional meetings as needed and or have the extra meeting be on a Thursday, so we have a Wednesday, Thursday back to back to accommodate other council member schedules. But that's not the motion.
That's not the motion. Yeah. Anything else? Councilmember Pack, otherwise please turn
The
your
other
light off.
discussion, on option C, then the discussion would be, do we want to keep a consistent start time instead of flip-flopping 5:30 to 6 on option C?
So right now we have a motion on the table. So your option is to discuss this motion, or you can offer a substitute motion.
I won't offer a substitute, but thank you.
Okay. All right. Is there any further discussion to this motion? Seeing none, Ms. Quick, we would like to vote. We have a motion on the table by Councilmember Bloom. I seconded, right?
Yes, you did.
And I was the second, and the motion is to adopt option C with the addition of adding May 9th as a night to receive the budget.
Thank you. Councilmember Bloom,
Yes.
Council or Vice Chair Green.
Oh, don't you dare.
Honestly, I don't like May 9th. Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey.
No.
Councilmember Worthen.
Yes.
Councilmember Pack.
No.
And Chair Whitelock.
Yes.
Okay, I show that motion passes 4-2. Thank you.
I will tell the audience what I told our youth last time. Government can be messy sometimes, but isn't that good that we have good debate? Thanks for being here. Have a good night. Next on our agenda is Resolution 22-045, authorizing the mayor to execute an interlocal cooperation agreement with Salt Lake County, amending the TRCC grant for the Big Bend project. I'm guessing it's you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. In 2018,
And we should say this is Jeremy Olson.
yes,
Okay.
hello. The city received a $750,000 grant for the Big Bend project, which was later amended by the county as the funds dried up as a result of COVID quarantines. The county has reauthorized the remaining $500,000, so your approval of this resolution would provide that funding for the Big Bend project. And with that, I'm available for any questions.
Are there any questions for Mr. Olson? Vice Chair Green.
Move to approve Resolution 22-045.
Councilmember McConaughey. Oh, no.
I'll second.
Oh, he seconded it.
Oh, did you say second? Oh, sorry, we didn't hear you. Okay, we have a motion on the table to approve by Councilmember Green, a second by Councilmember McConaughey. Is there any discussion to this motion? I just want to say thank you. I'm excited for the day that this project comes to full fruition. Seeing none other, this quick vote, please.
Chair Whitelock.
Yes.
Councilmember Worthen.
Yes.
Councilmember Pack.
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Aye.
Councilmember Bloom.
Yes.
Vice Chair Green.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes 6-0.
Great. Next up is Resolution 22-050, authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement between the City of West Jordan and ChamberWest Chamber of Commerce for chamber services and to renew any subsequent renewal agreements under the same terms. Mr. Pengra.
Council.
And I do want to note that Barbara is here from the chamber.
Yes, and I'll just illustrate that I overlooked inviting her to the meeting, or at least notifying her that that this was on the agenda. She knew it was coming, but so while I was sitting back there during work session, I sent her a text and she said, "Oh, I'm on my way." And I said, "You don't have to be here, but you're welcome to anyway." That's pretty typical for Barbara. She's awesome to work with, and we really enjoy our relationship. I won't go over lots of detail about the agreement. I think you've all seen it and know what's being presented. I did want to just make a note. When Dr. Flint was going through the presentation, there was something that I was interesting that kind of, as an economic developer, I overlook, which is not everybody loves, industrial and commercial development. It is positive and it has positive impact on the community, but it's not always deemed positive by every member of the community. And I think that that's just a great reminder of how important it is to make investments in the businesses we already have. It's a quality versus quantity. We help the businesses that we already have be successful. They make more investments, they hire more people, they offer more benefit to the community. And it's not that we're not going to see additional businesses come into the city. We will with our growth. However, it's just a reminder that we get so much value out of investing in the local businesses that we already have. which is why we really appreciate the relationship we have with ChamberWest. They do a wonderful job and they offer a tremendous amount of value to our businesses. With that, I'll answer any questions you may have.
Are there any questions for Mr. Pangra? Or I'm sure Barbara would be willing to answer anything also. I see none, so I would come to the council for a motion, perhaps.
If I remember, because it's not on the screen, I'm going to move to approve resolution 22-050.
Good job. Councilmember McConaughey.
Second.
We have a motion to approve by Councilmember Green, a second by Councilmember McConaughey. Vote please, Ms. Quick. Oh, is there anyone that wants to have a discussion to this motion? I'm sorry. Ms. Worthen.
Yeah, Barbara, I would like to see you here more often. I get that people like to come around when money's on the table, but I mean, you're very delightful, and we like to hear maybe a few more updates throughout the year of what's going on, or a representative, because I do know you live quite far away, so it doesn't always have to be you, but maybe 3 or 4 times a year. Love to hear what's going on in the chamber.
Guess you missed my reports.
Okay, Ms. Quick, we're ready now.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you. Councilmember Pack.
Yes.
Councilmember Worthen.
Yes.
Councilmember Bloom.
Yes.
Chair Whitelock.
Yes.
Vice Chair Green.
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Aye.
That motion passes 6-0. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember McConaughey.
If you're ready to move on the agenda, I would move to approve all consent items, including meeting minutes and both resolutions.
I'll second that.
We have a motion to approve our consent items by Councilmember McConaughey, a second by Councilmember Bloom. Ms. Steck.
Any discussion?
Oh, is there any discussion to this motion? Thank you. Let's vote.
One more time, will you tell me?
Councilmember McConaughey
Sorry.
motioned and Councilmember Bloom seconded.
Thank you.
And the motion is to approve consent items A
Perfect.
through C.
Councilmember Pack.
Yes.
Chair Whitelock.
Yes.
Councilmember Bloom.
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Aye.
Vice Chair Green.
Sure. Particularly because we want Google Fiber to go forward fast.
And Councilmember Worthen.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is City Council reports and remarks. Who wishes to speak? Oh, yeah, you are first.
I don't have anything to report for tonight, thank you.
I was just looking at my big
hang on.
print.
Alan, I did have a question, because you had mentioned it. Maybe the IT people can tell, Rodney back there in the cheap seats can tell us, isn't there a time where the city's going to cut off the use of personal computers to access city resources?
There are some lockdowns that are coming just to protect the city's assets and
Do
city's
we know when they're
information.
coming? Because I actually use my PC to log into work office and a couple of things.
Does anyone in the room know a time frame? Ms. Steck, you look like you might know.
She supervises the IT.
You could probably use Corbin's mic.
As soon as possible, the legislature has authorized a legislative audit as well, related to cybersecurity. But in order for us to have a completely secure system, we need to have city issued laptops with multi-factor authentication included on them. So we would prefer that happen before January 1st if possible.
Okay, so if any of us are using our own, who should they contact? Rodney looks like his hand's up. Okay,
Rodney.
contact
Contact
Alan
me
and
and
Alan
I
will
Alan
be
will
the
collaborate.
intermediary.
And I will get you information, but you will need that to access the shared drive, email, and some of those features.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Learn to like my device. That's what you just said.
I have nothing else to report.
So follow-up question. So does that mean that we won't be able to access any of it with our telephone then, right?
Your smartphone, I think, is accessible.
Oh, we
It's
can
your-
with our smartphone,
Yes.
just not with a laptop or, okay.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. We will, well, golly, the lights were all there and then they left.
I've got some.
So we'll go with, this is council reports and remarks. We'll go with Councilmember Worthen first.
So this is my comment. I did this today. So if you haven't done this yet, get out, get your vote done. I hear Utah has a really secure system, so I think you're all good. So get out and vote.
Okay, yeah, and if you need to figure out those judges, you can find reviews online. Councilmember Pack.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Grateful to hear the progress being made on 7800 South out west. That'll be exciting. I've heard so many comments about that. When can we at least have the left or the right turn lane going? So wonderful update. Thank you, Mr. Clegg. And grateful for all of the follow-up. I've been in contact with Mr. Lee on a variety of issues, and he's always forwarded the information to the directors or the staff member in charge of the issue, and I've always gotten a return phone call or text back. So grateful for the wonderful communication. Thank you. I'm always wanting to err on the side of customer service. I know that's tough when we have code enforcement and regulations. Hopefully we're helping people feel valued and heard. And trying to read my own writing.
Good, it's not just me.
No, I wrote it so small and so fast. But I believe that was it. Grateful for the communication and coordination between the branches of government in this new form of government, relatively new. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, I see no one else. So I would like to report that because Councilmember McConaughey brought up the airport open house, that I did go and attend. Learned really quick, as well as some of the other people in the room, that it wasn't quite the open house format we anticipated. And as the mayor indicated, there were a lot of people there. So I went ahead and pulled up a seat on the floor in the front. But it was an interesting listening to what, I don't think they were necessarily all residents of West Jordan, but interesting to listen to what the people, their concerns, and they were safety and where are our kids going to play soccer. Those were, I would say, because the ones that I think might not have been residents, their concerns were hangars, and it sounds like there's a new person over that airport, and that he seemed like he wants to move forward in making better things there. So that was good to hear. The bad to hear and see was that zone over, which goes over Public Works, but I did ask and found out that that won't affect our building or our property. Their concern is the property they own. So that was good. I also want to thank the mayor and Chief Wallentyne for the invitation to join them at the NAACP Awards night. I and Councilmember Bloom had the opportunity to go, and I think we both enjoyed it. It was great hearing from the pastor that spoke, and you know, it's I think what we're all feeling is, let's be kind to everyone and accepting and work towards being a great country. It was a great night. The other thing that I have, and I see Miss Councilmember Bloom has her light on, but I'm going to go to Chair Housekeeping first, and then I'll come to her. This is just a question for the council. I was asked at VEC, which is our 911 operators, right? I'm being asked if we would like to have them come and give us a report, like we have other people come and give us a report. Do we want to hear from them, or would we like to see if we could get a tour of the facilities? So I guess first I'll say, if you're interested in having them come report to us, please nod your head or raise your hand. I'm seeing two. Okay. Is there anyone that's interested in going and seeing their operations? Raise your hand for that. 1, 2, 3, maybe 4. Okay, well, then I would say that, can I count you as my fourth and say we'd like to? Great. Okay, so Mayor, can you take that back? That we would,
That was
Mr. Lee.
Lee's question.
I know, but he wasn't
Mr.
there.
Lee is actually on
I'm
the
sorry, I
board.
apologize. That's why I snuck over here. We'll arrange some times for some potential tours.
Perfect, thank you. All right, Councilmember Bloom.
Here, I'll turn my left.
Thanks. No, I wanted to echo attending the NAACP was a wonderful event, and it was nice to be in such a diverse room in Utah. But the key message was love and working together as community to make our nation, our cities a much better place. And Calvin, your name was mentioned as well, and so wanted to say congrats and thank you for being a member of the NAACP. And then I also wanted to give a shout out for all our residents that do attend our council meetings. It means so much to us. It really does. Being able to have that feedback directly from our neighbors is so vital to city government and local government. And speaking of which, yes, go out and vote, or mail in your vote, or drop off your vote, or go in person. It doesn't matter. Just vote and bring your neighbors along with as well. And I think I had one more thing, but I forgot. But I am looking forward to a ride along with the fire department this weekend. So yay!
Vice Chair Green.
I was going to say, I had tickets to the NAACP awards thing the other night, and we ended up in the emergency room. So the timing didn't work out, or I would have been there. So I did want to be there, and I had something else, and now I can't even remember what it was. So it was the airport. We definitely need to put the airport on an upcoming meeting. What I walked away from the airport meeting is it's not necessarily save the soccer fields at the corner of 78 South and 40th West. It's we need to make sure that we have soccer fields for our kids to play on, and it may not be on that corner because the cost of the lease may be too high. So I want to, as we start looking at that and exploring that, we need to make sure what our goals are. But that's what I came away from the meeting, is that it's not as much about saving the soccer fields. It's about figuring out where our kids are going to play soccer and other places to play. So that's what I came away with the airport open house. Thanks.
I would look for one final motion.
I'll move to adjourn.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries, and I'd like to say we're out of here at 8:57. Good job.
You have an
Chair.
RDA
Oh, we
meeting.
do have an RDA.
We have an RDA.
I lied. Now I need a motion for our RDA.
But hang on, because I've got to
Because you gotta
reconfigure. This
redo.
is a in-person meeting only. It will not be streamed on Zoom.
And for those of you sitting here, we'll be going to closed session real quick after we go into open session.